In this episode of the Exploring Information Security podcast, how to prepare a presentation for a cybersecurity conference.
Computers now have primary control of critical functions.
Houston, recommend vector transfer.
Your go for APU shutdown on time.
Roger, go for deploy.
Nice to be in orbit.
Welcome to the Exploring Information Security podcast, where you will learn, explore, and grow your security mindset. I'm your host, Timothy D. Block, and in this episode, we will be exploring how to prepare a presentation for a cybersecurity conference. And this was a live episode that we did back on September 18th. Show notes can be found at exploresec.com/EIS. Feedback for the shows, you can send them directly to me, timothy.dblock at exploresec.com. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn. Also, you can rate the podcast on your favorite platform if you want to support the show. That's a good way to do it as well, too. I have started a Discord channel. You can go to exploresec.com. Community is where you can find the invite to get into the Discord channel there. I've also got a Google Groups listserv that you can get on where, I'll promote different things. And then if you go to meetup.com and search for ExploreSec or Exploring Information Security, you will find the meetup page that we have for live events, in-person events, and, depending on where I might be. But you can check that out there. This was an episode I wanted to use, and I did it live on YouTube. Unfortunately, I screwed up the audio, so I pulled it down because I didn't want to leave something up there that is just not useful to people. But this was for me to prepare for B-Sides Greenville, talking about threat modeling. I figured it was a good opportunity to, one, talk about how I prepare for a conference. And every speaker is a little bit different, especially me talking to other speakers that go to these events. But for me, this is kind of just my process to be prepared, to make sure I'm on time, to make sure I'm finishing on time. So you kind of hear me talk about some of the different things that I do and then talk about threat modeling. So if you're interested in threat modeling, this is probably a good episode to listen to as well. Let me know if this type of career advice helps you, because I've done it several times. I have my process for getting ready. Because I'd like to do some more of this stuff, but if it helps you, that's great. I'd like to do more, but if not, I won't do it anymore. A couple things I talked about, standing up while you practice, timing for the presentation, practicing at the time of the presentation. Some of the misadvice I didn't have in this episode that I was thinking through and kind of took down was uhs and ums and other crutches can be eliminated by practicing your presentation. So, and you probably hear me, one of the things is, that I do, it's a crutch. I also will end a sentence with so. I try to eliminate that stuff. I still do it, but practicing will allow you to not sound and eliminate a lot of that stuff when you're up there presenting and kind of think on the fly. And then slowing down. That's another thing that practicing will allow you to do is kind of pace yourself. If you need to do timing or you feel like you're a little bit ahead, you can kind of slow down a little bit. But practicing definitely helps you do a lot of that stuff. With that, let's go exploring.
So I run through, and I say it out loud. So that's again why I'm doing this here. And I want to be able to go through and kind of just do a check on it. One is making sure things sound okay. Maybe I can get rid of stuff. It's been over a year since I've actually presented on this. So I'm interested to see, just changes in experience and other stuff. And I do the whole presentation. So I'm starting it over here. I would say, welcome to the Security Hitchhiker's Guide to Threat Modeling. My name is Timothy D. Block of Exploring Information Security. Happy to be here. This is what we're going to talk about, which is an agenda. So why this talk? What is threat modeling? Basis of threat modeling, methodologies and approaches, tools and resources, demo, best practice, and tips and conclusion. You can see if you see me on the stream on my camera, I'm moving my hands around so I can kind of feel kind of the motion of it all. I'll walk around a little bit to kind of get into a little bit pacing. I have had feedback where at one point I wasn't walking, then I was walking way too much. So you got to find that middle ground there. But yeah, so everything there sounds fine. I also don't like doing a who am I kind of slide because one, I should already be in the bio there. And two, people will look me up if they really care to know who I am. Not to say people can't do a bio slide, and every once in a while I might do a bio slide. I probably should, just for marketing purposes. But really, when I like to go to a talk, it's like I just really want to get into it. I really want to kind of start giving people the content that they're there for, and especially with 30 minutes, it's like I don't want to waste time on a who am I type of slide. So there's the agenda. Picture looks good. So I go through why this talk. The other thing I'm going to pull up here that people can see is, and in fact, when I go through my presentation, I look at my notes, and I go through the first time without timing it. After my first go, I will start timing it to see, am I too quick? Am I too slow? If I practice, I always try to practice to be a little bit longer than the time, because what's going to happen often for myself and a lot of other people I've talked to about this is it will actually, you'll actually get done quicker because you're going to have some adrenaline going. And so you're not going to be as slow as methodical. You're going to forget stuff too. That's the other thing is I have these notes here, but I will riff on stuff, go out of order. I try to just keep a flow about it. And then these are just here, and these are very short to remind me of different little things I want to make sure I incorporate into the slide. So on this slide, it's like, why does this talk? I've always had this kind of threat modeling in other talks. And I wanted to do one on just threat modeling because I think it's such an important thing. It's low cost. It's easy to implement. It's really easy to get started. And I think it provides a ton of value to an organization. And you can really streamline security into a lot of things using threat modeling, whether that's application security. And I've taken this outside of application security and used it on project management based stuff, or, you know, a lot of us often feel like we're brought in late to a project. You know, we're coming in at the end. Threat modeling is actually really good at discovery, and it can really help really identify some of the different issues with a project or application that need to get addressed, and then allows you to kind of prioritize and rank what vulnerabilities or discoveries you made that need to be addressed, and in the order they're addressed. If you can get it early in the process, it make things just go so much smoother that security is not coming in at the end, if you're fortunate enough to be in an organization that does that. If you're working with developers, I have found that this really helps, and I guess really anybody outside of cybersecurity, it really helps build a security mindset, because threat modeling gets them into thinking about cybersecurity risks and things that can go wrong. Because a lot of people want to just build, and do what needs to do to get the job done. Let's see, what's this? Privacy has become more of a thing. It can get companies in trouble. Yeah. I guess that's kind of just an example I brought up. I don't know if I'll mention that. That's one less thing I have to worry about there. Like I said, we're going for time here. You can, and then I talk about some examples of some actual real world scenarios. You know, the NotPetya attack. This is the one where malware was a wiper deployed against Ukraine, but because Americans had companies over in Ukraine, it actually filtered into the US and into their organization because they didn't have proper network segmentation. Threat modeling is something that would have discovered that and allowed a company to put in the proper controls to ensure something like that doesn't happen. SolarWinds too is like an insider threat, and it's interesting if you dig into that. Is the SolarWinds attackers actually had a threat model because they built their code to shut down if certain security tools were found in the SolarWinds patch that they were deploying to organizations. They lasted it in organizations for 6 months. They had compromised SolarWinds, the company, and was building out code inside their build process in the development team. And they lived there for 6 months because they had a proper threat model in place. And then this is one I probably need to update is, and I'll probably take a note here for this, is 23andMe was kind of at the time. I like to talk about something newer. So we could talk about maybe some of the Salesforce breach stuff, where I can, like I said, it's a very ICS OT conference. I can look for some of that stuff and talk about the fact that, 23andMe, it's is a bio site that allows you to send in like a swab of saliva and figure out, family history and stuff. And they got compromised, And the reason they got compromised was because of credential stuffing and the fact of, how do you tackle that? If they had that as part of their threat model, they'd know that people are going to try to, just throw random credentials at their website, get logged in. So you can put MFA in place, you can do other stuff, you can shut down automatically IPs and bots that are trying to log in over and over again, like thousands of times in a second. And then once the attackers got in, the bigger problem was that they didn't have the proper sharing permissions in place to prevent someone, once an account was compromised, to be able to go to any sort of different profile within there. So if someone shared something, you could pretty much get to anywhere else. So those are examples that I like to use for threat modeling. So that's kind of, again, how I do it, is I just go through. So, and we actually dive into some of these examples. In this case, I might actually, I kind of dove in already with some of that stuff. In this, I'm going to keep it for now because I'm going to wait for timing. But you can see here, each one of these would be one that I walk through. Those are just examples. I think I did that for the short version, but then when I have longer ones, I can kind of dive in a little bit more, give some visuals, talk about that a little bit more like I did, but I can also do it from this slide. So we might look at, depending on timing, I might get rid of these slides, or based on what I just did, I didn't need a whole lot of time. So I might just have the slides up there. Again, I might, ditch some of this extra stuff. Again, I'm not going to do it now, but as I'm timing myself, these are definitely things I'm thinking about potentially removing. Then I talk about the cost of fixing a bug. And this slide here, or this was created with ChatGPT, this graph. And this is a pretty typical flow chart or I guess dot chart of benefits of early threat modeling, finding bugs early in the design phase. And I kind of mentioned that already. So this might be another one I get rid of when I talk about the why. It might just get rolled up all into that one thing. Otherwise, we might elaborate a little bit more. We'll kind of see with timing. And again, like I said, this can be really good for discovery as well, too, for looking at merger and acquisition application and processes. You can really dive into a lot of different stuff with threat modeling. So you can see here, I have a note here. That's why I had that thing in there. How many of you feel like this was evaluating legacy application or as part of a merger or acquisition? This is meant to be just something humorous. You don't want to leave GIFs up on a slide or a presentation for very long while you're talking, because they can get distracting. I'm sure plenty of people right now can get distracting. Again, I put like drink, or I'll probably just remove that. I don't know why I had that last year. But I'll kind of let the GIF play at least once or twice and then just move on. Don't panic. Use threat modeling. Again, it's really good for discovery. Again, I might shorten a lot of these, especially because of the condensed version. I do like having the GIF in there because it kind of mix it up. And if you can get the timing right with it, obviously when I'm practicing here, I'm not. But as I do more timing and kind of go through it all, I'll work on timing. So how many of you feel like when evaluating legacy or applications as part of a merger, you like this? See, and I even just said it out loud and I kind of stumbled over my words. So I might go back. How many of you feel like this when evaluating? And the timing can also be in here. How many of you feel like this? And then I can put in here a note slide. There's like a slide thing. Let's see. So again, I'm also looking for some of the visuals. You can see too, as part of my editing, I've had different fonts and different sizes. I probably should just fix all that in like at least one font. Let's go Central Gothic. I imagine font's probably important. You can see it's still a little jacked up. You can see this results from me editing it in different formats. If you download it because you're working on it offline and then back upload it, Microsoft PowerPoint might change it up a little bit, but yeah, again, kind of how I just go through it. How many of you like this when evaluate? How many of you feel like this? See, again, I screwed it up. I won't go back and forth usually, or I might push it back a slide and then try it again. How many of you feel like this when you're evaluating legacy applications or applications from a merger and acquisition? Don't panic. This is where threat modeling can be really good for discovery, give you experience with legacy applications. And again, too, I kind of talk about that a little bit. Oh, I skipped a slide too. Yeah, I might actually change some of this formatting once I get into a proper flow of it. And again, I'm thinking just off the cuff right now about how I want to do this. I might actually, So I did a what is, because I kind of talk about the why. So yeah, after these examples, I get into the what is threat modeling. Don't panic. Yeah. I kind of did this I think I kind of did all that. So I kind of talked about some of that too in the why. So I might move like this up here. Let's do that now. And again, I might move stuff around and then go, as I go through the presentation, I'm like, no, I kind of did like it where it was before, but I'll try it at least. And this is, again, why you get it over and over. I will say probably about the third time I'm feeling really comfortable and it's locked in. And then the last 2 times before my presentation, I feel like I'm just practicing for timing and, elaborating. I might come up with an idea too. The other thing too is like I'm making edits now. When I'm doing the timing, I don't want to have to keep stopping and starting the clock because I've done that before and I've forgotten to start the clock again. And so then it just like, oh, I don't even know where I was at. And I just kind of blew my timing session. I might do it a little bit. I might start a clock and then edit it for the first 2, but then after the third kind of gets locked in and then that's what it is. And then if I remember to go back and edit, I will. But let's see. So now that I've changed everything. So what is threat modeling, right? It's discussing the design, the data flow of something. And it's something we all do on a regular basis. When you're planning birthday parties, you're thinking about balloons, animals, cake, what can go wrong essentially. Same thing with planning trips. If you're traveling somewhere, do you need to buy the insurance? Do you feel like you can get by if you don't buy the insurance? Did you pack sunscreen? What happens if this? That's another example of threat modeling. The best example I give that I think people really identify with is driving, right? When I'm on the road, I am thinking about if I'm passing a 13-wheeler, what happens if this dude comes over into my lane? Can I get over? Do I slam on my brakes? Do I need to speed up? And I've had these scenarios before. These guys have come over. And so I'm kind of constantly thinking about that stuff. People in front of me, what happens if they slam on their brakes? Do I have somewhere to go? These are kind of just as I'm driving, these are things I'm thinking about. Oh, I need to get off on this exit. Can I make it down there? If I don't make it, do I need to take the next exit? Or do I just need to slow down and get in line now? Those are all examples of, threat modeling. What's going to happen if I miss this exit? Am I going to be late for a meeting or do I get off? Or, even again, traveling somewhere, what time do I need to leave? So essentially it's a step-by-step process to identify risks. The benefits of early threat modeling can reduce bug cost and really get everybody on the same page. So that is where this would be. I'm actually gonna slip it back. We've kind of walked through that already. Don't panic. We'll use threat modeling and I'll show you how to do it throughout this presentation. So here's the basics of threat modeling. It's essentially just a data flow diagram. I've actually and that's the other thing too, as part of this, I've realized too, is I'll sometimes talk about something in a previous slide of where I wanted to, because again, I had it in my head. Like I did earlier, I did the why this talk and I kind of covered some of that stuff and the what is threat modeling. So now I've got to figure out where do I actually want that kind of stuff. But you can see here, I'm not following like line by line. I'm just trying to go based off my thought process and trying to keep that flow consistent. Whoops, I missed that. Let's see. So the threat modeling process is identifying assets and data flows. So you're kind of doing a scope, establishing the security profile, and then identifying potential threats. Okay, I know what I'm doing. Okay, it's all coming back to me now. Did I say XKCD slide now? Yeah, so you can kind of see I started with the full thing here, but then I switch over. And again, practicing this, I'll know when to kind of switch it. Potentially identifying threats. I might grab this and put this in here. Again, I might change it how it is. So the silence part is identifying potential threats is to remind me to talk about silence in a threat model. Assessing attacks, prioritizing risks. By the way, this is how I would actually do this. Oh, there's something a little bit different here. Assessing attacks, mitigating attacks. Yeah, I like to mitigate better. I think that's why I did it there. Mitigate attacks. So we'll mitigate attacks and then prioritize risk, document, and then address the discovered threats. So talking about potential threats. See, I'm already thinking too. I don't like how that flowed. Again, I'm a little bit more tired today than I might be next time I go practice this. So that's where I might have a different thought about how I want to do that. So you can identify potential threats. See, now I'm trying to think about how I want to actually go into that. I actually might change this up quite a bit. Yeah, we're actually going to do that. I'm going to put a title screen. Let's see if we can grab this. We're going to put identifying potential threats. What I was looking for there is what I'm doing here is looking at this and seeing, does it line up well enough with that? Yeah, I think it does, because you don't want to like put a new title in and then have it like moving up and down. It looks a little bit weird. So yeah, I might come back and rework this a little bit, but I'm going to talk about identifying potential threats, of course. So and the most important thing for helping with identifying potential threats in a crowd of people that aren't cybersecurity people that you need to get to talk is silence. Just like that. Like someone felt like they had to say something, it got very uncomfortable. But if you use silence, especially in a smaller room, not in this big conference room, but in a smaller room like I just did, people are going to be awkward. They feel like they have to speak up. And you want that with threat modeling and identifying potential threats. You want people that are going to speak up, because they've built the system. They probably know how to break it, or you just really need to get them into that kind of attacker mindset, right? And this XKCD is a perfect example of, hey, this is the idea of a crypto nerd imagination. My laptop is encrypted. Oh no, it's got 4096-bit RSA. Blast, or every pen is foiled. What actually happened is his laptop's drug him and hit him with a $5 wrench until he tells us his password. That is reality. And that is often, a lot of times when you're identifying potential threats, you want to get people thinking simple, because there are a lot of people that will come in and want to like break encryption and do this other stuff. And it's like, no, just grab a $5 wrench and go. If you want to get someone's password, just get a $5 wrench, tie him to a chair and beat him. Now that's illegal, of course, and I wouldn't recommend that. But we have had cases where simple way, attackers are looking for the simplest way in. And there are a couple examples of, a couple years ago, a Russian national was trying to bribe a Tesla engineer with $1 million to put code in the Tesla ecosystem. China's Google AI. I don't know what that's from. I don't know. What is this? We're going to update that. So I'll go look for other simple examples of attackers getting in. And a lot of them, even nowadays, I think a lot of people are talking about credentials and breaches from other organizations and people reusing those passwords. That would be an example of an attack that you might want to talk about in the threat model. Right? The threat model for identifying risks is what can someone actually do. But even as simple as, I've told developers, I was like, hey, if I give you $1 million, will you give me your username and password and your MFA? And everyone's been like, you can't do. Oh, yeah, I can. And again, going back to the Tesla example, where a Russian national offered the guy $1 million, they would have, there are some people he didn't, but there may have been other people that absolutely would. So you really want to try to break it down but let people come up with this stuff, because that's when they're going to start, thinking more like an attacker. And especially with developers, or even just people, as they get more and more into the processes, they will be thinking about security as they're kind of working on the project, and they can call out stuff, and they can, provide potential problems, and then bring in some creative solutions that cybersecurity. I've seen from both the cybersecurity side of we didn't like the attack was so brilliant, I didn't even think about it, and their fix was brilliant as well too. One of those examples is I worked with developers, and we were like, well, what happens if someone takes a screenshot of this page with a bunch of PII on it? I work in healthcare, so that's why I have those sensitive information in there. And the developers are like, well, yeah, you can't really stop that, but maybe we can disable certain things like on websites. You can, and it's frustrating when they do this, you can disable paste on a login page. Now that drives me nuts because I'm copying my password out of my password manager. But one of the solutions they came up with, well, we could put a watermark on the page. So if someone's screenshotting something, and we get a hold of that. You can't necessarily stop that completely, but if you get a hold of that, you now know who was logged in when that happened, and potentially a timestamp when that happened. Now, is that going to be an eyesore from a development standpoint and a UI standpoint? Absolutely. But when you're talking maybe about an internal application, that might be a good solution. So once you've identified these, that's the other thing, again, is mitigating the attacks. How do we actually mitigate this? And again, silence is golden. Letting other people come up with solutions, one, gives them ownership of it, but two, they're going to have some creative solutions around all that stuff. And then within threat modeling, you want to prioritize the risks. And I talk about that in the next couple of slides, so I won't go into that. And then you want to send in, hold on. No, that's not it. So I might actually add a slide for that, prioritizing risk. I might actually break this out, just walk through this, because I feel like that's going to flow a little bit better, and then get rid of some of these slides. But we'll give it another go and then maybe do that. I don't want to do that right now. So then you want to document, send out after action notes and meeting notes, and make sure you tie people to it. With Copilot and AI nowadays, would absolutely recommend using those if you have those licenses to write up after action and meeting notes. It is absolutely brilliant. Don't use all the AI note taking that everybody's doing, because especially if your company hasn't vetted it, because no one knows where that data is going. No one knows what they're doing with it. No one knows what they're training their AI with it. So like if you're a Microsoft shop, just use Copilot or try to get a Copilot license from your organization. Don't just grab it and throw it into ChatGPT. Please don't throw meetings in ChatGPT or a non-approved AI platform for that. That's my disclaimer. Maybe I'll add a slide. Let's actually do that. I think that would be fun in here. So we're going to add a disclaimer slide. So we're going to disclaimer, and then we'll make this the AI, and I'll go look for, because again, I'm just practicing. So I'm going to add notes, and then I'm going to go back and kind of look through this AI disclaimer on putting meeting notes in approved chat or AI platform. Because again, I kind of want to go through this. And if I wasn't presenting and talking to you guys and doing the live stream, I might spend a little bit more time with this, but I think that would be fun. And then you go about addressing, the discovered threats. I'm going to remove that because I don't know, that was probably in there, but we're going to take that out. Again, I'm looking for anything I really don't want to have a flow in, so I can do other stuff. So methodologies and approaches, there's a bunch of common overview of common. Let's see. Let's get rid of that. So methodologies and approaches for threat modeling. I want to make this bigger. Maybe off to the side a little bit. Let's see. I think that looks a little bit better. So overview of threat modeling or threat modeling methodologies. There's a bunch of different ones. There's Stride, there's Shred, there's Linden, which is for privacy threats. And this actually, you know what we should do? I don't like bullet points in my slides, but I am coming around to them a little bit more. So we are going to do, because especially like this, we'll put in, this actually is useful. Let's see, white. We'll make it big enough. We'll move that around a little bit. So I like everything being on one thing there. You can see here, this will, okay, I think that looks okay. I might do that, but I might go back and do all those as like a bold. Yeah, I kind of like that. Let's add that on here, bold, all headlines. So you can see here, I'm doing just small little tweaks here and there. And I'll come back and really get into it a little bit more when I have time. So overview of threat methodologies. They got Stride, Dread, Linden for privacy threats. There's others out there. And then attack trees, which I'll show you an example of an attack tree here in a moment. I like using Stride. It was created in 1999 by Lauren Coffenfielder and Perert Garg while at Microsoft. Tampering, by the way, refers to the unauthorized modification of data and repute. I know what tampering is. I think repudiation is always the one that got me. Repudiation involves an attacker performing an illicit operation or transaction in such a way that there's no proof of their actions, denying their involvement. So within the Lin Dun, there's actually an anti-repudiation where a user can be identified by the information or the actions they take. So that's kind of how I think is the reverse of privacy, where we want to be able to know what an attacker is doing. The reverse of it is we don't want to know from a privacy standpoint. I don't know why I have these in here, so we're going to remove those. But spoofing, these are pretty straightforward. Yeah, that's why I didn't put them in there because I talk about it. Spoofing, which is pretending to be someone you're not. Tampering is messing with data. Repudiation, as I just said, involves an attacker performing an illicit operation that there's no proof of action, denying their involvement, plausible deniability, if you will. There's information disclosure as well, and then denial of service. And if you didn't know that denial of service, I might need to see, because we do that around denial of service. That is probably the top attack that happens according to the Verizon DBIR. There's a lot more DDoS attacks than any other kind of actual attack. And then elevation of privilege. So Stride is a way to, and I need to add that here. Stride equals identifying. So yeah, I can see we're kind of jumping around a little bit here, maybe. I don't know. Again, because I'm editing it, I am stopping and starting, so I'm not going to get too caught up in that. But Stride is helping identify the threats, and each one of these is a way that you want to think about. So when you're talking to these people, trying to use your silence to get them, we have this up on the board, right? What is a way to spoof? What is a way to tamper? What's a way to repudiation? What's a way for information disclosure to happen? What's a denial? How can a denial of service happen? And these are all things that you can think about as an attacks. You don't have to stick to them, but these kind of cover a lot of the different things that you want to think about in a threat model. A lot of people think Stride's outdated, so they've got different ways of kind of identifying some of that stuff. Sorry. Again, some of this I have to make sure I'm talking about stuff clearly, because we're not going to cover Lin Dun for privacy threats. Dread is a way to, and I kind of talk about that at this point, don't I? Yeah, I talk about that on here. So attack trees. This is just an example I like to provide, and surprisingly, and maybe I need to pull up this instead of this AI art and put that in there. Let's see, let's pull this up here and look at it. So you can see here, I created this again with AI, wrote a whole, and this all was generated with AI too, by the way, of explaining the ways that attack trees can be used. I think I will let's grab this. Let's copy this image. Let's remove this. I think I did it because it was hard to fit on here, maybe, question mark? Let's see. Yeah, see, I don't know if I like this, but we'll leave it here for now and maybe edit it later as I'm looking at it. Maybe me being on the small screen here. Again, when I'm editing my notes, I have it huge like this. When I'm not, I do this, so I can kind of view the visual of it. This can actually be shrunk, I think, a little bit too. It'll give me a little bit more real estate here. All right, kind of like that. So attack trees, this is an example of, I had it in here. I did have it in here. All right, let's get rid of this one. Again, timing. So again, yeah, see, I do this all the time too. I go back there and I'm like, I did talk about that stuff. And I kind of get ahead of myself a little bit, but that's fine. So this is just an example of attack trees. You can go to this website page to get more information and dive in a little bit more, but it's, as you can see here, it's kind of a level 1 is your high level method, compromise app security. And then level 2 is kind of something more specific, exploit software vulnerability. And then you're getting the SQL injection of buffer overflow. So you can use attack trees. You could probably use AI for some attack trees. Again, disclaimer, don't put company information into a non-approved AI platform. I would recommend, using whatever your company is using for AI. but it could probably do that. I haven't done threat modeling in a few years, so I'd be curious if anybody has put it in. So Dread, this is another one that was created. Sorry, I'm thinking ahead. Yeah, I got it there. Created by Microsoft again. A lot of people think this is ambiguous, but I think this is really good, easy to get started. And this is a way that you're going to essentially prioritize your vulnerabilities, your identified attacks, and the mitigating controls you need to put in place. Is damage potential. How easy is it to reproduce? How actual exploitable is it? Yes, sometimes there can be a high damage, but a very low exploitability, which means it's not going to necessarily be top of mind. How many users are affected by it? How easy is it to discover in an application? Sometimes it can be super easy because it's just in the URL, and you can exploit that pretty easy. And then what I do is just put all this stuff on a 1 to 3 scale. You can use 1 to 10. Again, other people like other methodologies, but if you're just getting started, I think this is one that can be really good for helping you identify stuff and prioritizing it. And then you can kind of see too, something that you might think needs to be fixed, you find that is probably third, and something else is really high that needs to be fixed because it has it's very easily exploited, and it's very easy for damage potential. Again, I use 1 to 3 scale. You can do either a golf score, or what I prefer is damage potential is going to be high, 2 is going to be a medium, and 1's going to be a low. You could go to a 4 scale. You can go up to a 10. But what I don't like about those, especially when you're just introducing this to a lot of people, is threat modeling can be something for people to wrap their heads around. And so if you're going, okay, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, right? They're going, oh, it's a 6. Well, what's a 6 and a 7? And then you might get caught up. So that's why, again, I like keeping things as simple as possible: high, medium, and low, right? And I think you've probably heard people talk about shirt sizes too: extra, medium, large, right? So that's kind of just how I do it and how I recommend it. It can be very ambiguous, and you can get into the weeds a lot of this stuff, but if you're just looking to get started with it, I think it's really, really great for that. And then these are the other, as I mentioned, I think we're going to remove this. We're going to remove these two. Overview of the getting started. I don't know, I might play around with that a little bit because I do talk about all this other stuff here. These are some of the other ideas and concepts that you can bring into. I guess I don't talk about attack trees, do I? Do I want to move it? I might want to move it. Yeah, I think we're going to add, I think I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to add, oh, I need to move that back. Yeah, I think I'm going to change this up. Dang it. Let's see. So this is where I think I'm going to add some other attack trees, and I'll probably add some other stuff. The wide world of threat modeling. Give it a little sports ball reference. I might actually move this up too, just so I have more room here. And again, we'll make the bold here just to see. Let's talk about, so you can see I talk about some of the other attack trees. I like giving that because, again, I've found that a lot of people have gone to my website and gone to the attack trees example. I don't know if it's looking on other presentations that were recorded for this talk or what, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, I talk about, again, I've already mentioned Lynn Dunn. That's why I want to kind of group it all into one little thing here. This thing is really annoying. Yeah, and I might go adjust all the title slides. So again, I have a little bit more room. This is where actually just copying and duplicating these slides is really good because then it'll keep the titles in the same spot and you don't have to guess at where they're at. I might go do that and just rebuild some of these slides. We'll kind of see. But I do like this as like a, hey, here's other ideas, methodologies, things to think about. Lynn Dunn's about privacy. Octave is a broader strategy. So if you're looking to do this with like the board or executive level, then that would be a good one. There is the SDL bug bar from Microsoft, which is, I think, if you're going to scale out and do a little bit more in-depth threat modeling, that's might be a way to go because you can automate some of that stuff in. This also is highlighting, I need to go back and probably do a little bit more research on threat modeling. Let's add that here. Research. Oh, I put an underline. Research advance in threat modeling. This is a rare thing too, because usually what I like to do for presentations is I pick one for the year and I do that the entire year. So because I found that I can kind of get into a flow with it. I can edit it. I have had years where I had 2 in the same year, I think 3 maybe, and it was just shifting around a lot. Was not as good as just picking one for the year. I might change on that, but I don't typically go back and show previous years, especially if I don't work in the field anymore. I'm in security awareness now, so I'm not doing a lot with threat modeling. I will say I gave this talk at the conference. That wasn't the right one. I did give this at a different conference where some of the team, so I did a B-Sides National in April, joined my new organization in March, that March, and they all came to my talk and they were like, we got to put this in place at our organization. I was like, yeah, I can help you out with that. And, but I'm doing security awareness stuff now. So I'm not doing as much threat modeling as I did in the past. It is still something I enjoy doing, and I could easily shift back into doing it. Because again, I think security awareness could be a little bit like threat modeling, where you're introducing people to cybersecurity concepts. But I need to go back and probably up to speed. FAIR, which is a financial way. So if you want to identify how much is some of this stuff going to cost, which again might be something of interest to executives. And if you go to the exploresec.com webpage and search for FAIR, there is a podcast called What is FAIR with the creator of FAIR. Actually, let's do that right now since we're just kind of winging it here. What is FAIR? Also, you can go to my site and search for stuff, by the way. FAIR Deep Dive with I got the creator Jack Jones on to discuss about it. So it was a really good conversation and allowed me to talk to him and kind of dive into it. Terrorist Department of Defense, we'll talk about attack trees. And you see all my notes here. I'm not going to go through it because I think we're running a little bit short on time here. And again, for time, when I start doing some of this stuff, I might really just kind of blow through all this. Hey, this is some of the stuff, kind of talk about it briefly. Here's what it's here for, and kind of mention and more. Let's add in and much more. I'm going to get rid of the, I might play with that formatting a little bit. Much more. So we'll talk about, attack trees again here, maybe. Might move it back. We'll see. Then I get into the tools and resources. And what you really need to just get started is a whiteboard and markers. I've also used virtual whiteboards before because I was doing a lot of this during the pandemic and we were only on Zoom, weren't in a room. I like the whiteboard. And that's really need to get started with this. And it's as simple as that. It's a lot of X's it's a lot of squares and circles and triangles. And I get into some of that within the demo as well too. So that's why I might push a lot of that stuff to there. Commercial tools, I've not had much experience. If you have had experience with commercial tools, let me know how it goes. There's open source tools such as this is Microsoft's threat modeling tool, which is free. I didn't use it because I thought it went a little bit more deep than I really wanted to. I'm that type of person that just kind of wants to use a whiteboard and go. But if you really want to get into this, this is a really good tool to get a lot of detail. It'll have a lot of pre-populated stuff that you can pop in, and then it'll give you the attacks for a lot of that different stuff that you can document and put in place, or at least think about. The other one, the one I really liked though, was the OWASP Threat Dragon. Let's run over here real quick and see when the last time that one was up. I think it's probably still available, but I wonder, some of these don't get updated. Let's see. Band defense. Oh, yeah. Let's see. This is all. Let's see. Visit on GitHub. Let's see how much they've been updated. Okay, they're getting some update. That's good. And this is another one I've had a podcast on too, the OWASP Threat Dragon, to kind of talk about some of this stuff. Mike Goodwin. But this is a really cool tool for diagramming and using threat modeling. And again, this is threat modeling right here. It's a bunch of rectangle squares, dotted lines to show like a border. Again, we get into this with the demo, so I won't go into it a lot here. Circles, things like that, which are meant to be like servers. You can draw little people. You can use triangles for something. But Threat Dragon is an open source free theme that you can download and start playing with, and it has some functionality in it. It's not perfect, at least when I was using it, but it was pretty good. And I even put some of these drawings into documentation for people. And then another one is the Elevation of Privilege game, which is Adam Showstack has this game that you can print. You can pretty much print your own cards and play it as like a card game, and there's like all rules and other stuff. I haven't done it a whole lot because, again, I like the whiteboard and just getting into it, but I know there are some people that have played this. I played this a couple times, and it was pretty good. It's just, it takes a little bit to learn, but if you're looking for a different way to engage people, maybe people like card games. I have played that with developers as well too, being part of not this game, but like they do cards and other type of things to try, pretty much prioritize some of their bugs, things like that. So it's just another option. And then this is demo. So this is where I kind of dive in. I actually need to email the organizers now that I think about it. Here, update. Do I have a whiteboard? So for this one, again, I like to get through all that. It took me about a little under an hour to get through all that. I want to get through all that in 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes if I can. I'm going to have a lot of stuff to cut out because I want to spend more time actually doing a threat model. So you can see here, I have a couple different, which are in my presentations. I've got a couple different live demos. I will probably build a new one. Let's actually add that. Do I have a whiteboard? Build OT threat model. So I like to do this, have this up when we're doing the actual whiteboard so people can look at it. And this is kind of just an overview of the application, what it does. And then I like to, again, use some of my techniques when I'm in the actual presentation of getting them to use silence to get people to speak up. So this is a very interactive session for people, which can be very awkward for a lot of people, but there are always people in there that will speak up. And I tell them we can build it any way you want. You can try to maybe craft it towards something similar you're doing internally. But I do need to check if I have an actual whiteboard that they can roll in for my presentation. Otherwise, and I might, we'll see. I like with threat modeling, I just like showing it. So this one was one where it's like, I'm going to do a very short period of explaining what threat modeling is, and then we're going to just jump in and do it for 20 minutes just to kind of show people how easy it is. It is a little chaos too. We'll actually move to the best practices because that's where I talk about it. It is a little bit of chaos. It's a little bit of controlled chaos in those sessions. So if it feels like it's chaos, even in the presentation and the demo, that's what it is. That's what a lot of them are. I have walked into meetings where it's been very much like, oh, this will take 20 minutes, and 2 hours and 2 different sessions later, we're still talking about the threat model for this small little thing. So you just never know what's going to happen with it. But if there's not a whiteboard in there, I need to go then buy on Amazon. I can go buy like a whiteboard tape or thing that I can just stick on the wall and then take it off whenever I'm done. Common pitfalls to avoid: scope creep. Evolving your threat model and process over time. It takes time. It will help build a security mindset as people get more and more involved in it and get used to doing it a little bit more. There's definitely silence. In person is, I think, better for collaboration because when people are online, they tend to multitask and be doing other stuff. And what I like about being in person and on a whiteboard too is I've had people come in with their laptops, start working, but we start talking about stuff and people start getting engaged and really into the conversation. People stop working on their laptops and actually they then jump in on the conversation and start talking about some of the things going on. So it's a really interactive type of thing. And then, of course, the last thing to remember with all this is your threat model is not my threat model. So being up to speed on kind of some of the latest trends and things going on and understanding what's impacting your industry is going to be huge. That's where I always recommend the Verizon DBIR report. And then for further reading threat modeling, I think I've got it up on my shelf here. Yeah, it's right. This one right here. I won't pull it down because I might just pull off everything else on the desk. But threat modeling is a really good book by Adam Showstack. It is a really, really great book. I read the first 2 chapters, and then I was off running on threat modeling. Like that's how easy it was. It's a very in-depth book. I've read through a lot. I think I've completed it since then, and it's kind of the Hitchhiker's Guide to Threat Modeling. And then there's exploresec.com/threat models, a deep dive into threat modeling. I'll go ahead and maybe I'll just go ahead. Can I click on that link? Let's go. Yeah. No, just kidding. Yeah. So I kind of talk about all the stuff here in my presentation, kind of go through all this different stuff, capture a lot more of it there. And then GitHub has an awesome threat modeling by Heisensec. They've got a really great resource there. And then this is my contact information. I still am on X, but yeah, that's about me. And then if I have time, this is where I ask for questions. So, and then I'm done. So I don't know if anybody has, Peter, I don't know if you have any questions, if anybody watching has questions. But that's pretty much my process for getting ready for a conference. And like I said, this is the first step. The next step is to, again, practice. I don't know if I might do it tomorrow, but I like to do it the 5 days leading up to a conference. So I'm speaking next Saturday. So I'll try to, and I'll even try to do it in a hotel too. When I'm there I'll probably try to, but I have InfoSec Nashville Tuesday, so I probably won't. So I might try to start it like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I don't know that I'll be doing it. Wednesday, I think I can do it, and then Thursday, and then Friday, right? And so, and I shoot for 5. I don't always get 5. Sometimes I get 2. Sometimes I get 3. But that's kind of my idea for next week, is spending some time with this thing and going through it and building it all out. And I won't go through the live. I never practice the live demo because it's kind of again, like I said, it's a little bit of chaos and meant to be that way, and it's going to be different each time. So there's no point. So that's it. I don't see any questions in chat.
Yeah, I would ask how are you writing to get accepted as a speaker? What are you presenting? I know, I'm sure it's chaotic, but that's the biggest thing. How do you get your foot actually in it? This was good for building and practicing. I appreciate that, but what is your process? What do you try to do to make you stand out? Things like that to get selected.
That is an interesting question, because I feel like I'm not really good at it. I will definitely say it depends. I think there's a lot on the, I don't think I have that figured out myself. Because some of these I will get accepted for. Like, let's see, because it depends on the topic too and the conference. Some of these conferences are going to like it a little bit more. So, and sometimes you have to know the organizers. I will definitely say that I've been accepted because I gotten to know some of the organizers that go to these. B-Sides Augusta. If you want to get into B-Sides Augusta, do a 30-minute talk. Be willing to do a 30-minute talk, because everybody wants an hour. So that's probably what's allowed me to get into more conferences, is I'm either willing to do either a longer one or a shorter one. But I've talked to the organizers at B-Sides Augusta, and they're like, yeah, no one really wants to do 30 minutes. So it's, yours got accepted. Now, I'd like to think I have good topics, but I don't. Like this year, I'm doing how to build an effective phishing program. The title, I think, is super important. I started out with, I like doing a lot of these different fun things, like the Hitchhiker's Guide, right? I like doing references. So my title for the first part of this year was Timothy D. Block Presents Fun with Phishing, which is a play on Big Bang Theory. And is a total joke because, Sheldon, if you know that show, is just talking about flags, and it's just one of the lowest key productions. So I don't know if people aren't Big Bang Theory or they didn't get the reference or whatever. It wasn't getting picked up. I think, what did I speak? I didn't speak. I never get accepted to B-Sides Nashville, by the way, which is like 40 minutes from my house. I do speak at Show Me Con pretty regularly. Again, the organizers know me there. They like my presentation. I think it kind of depends on the conference too, and the organizing committee, and around what they want to see and read. So I think that's a large part of it. People are using AI, so they're writing a lot of that stuff, myself included. Let's go back up to mine, right? And again, I like to have fun with some of this stuff. Everyone knows Security Hitchhiker's Guide. Threat modeling got picked up a little bit. I think a lot of people were intrigued by it. No one's talking about it. APIs, that was one that got picked up in quite a few places that I was really happy with. Another one that I got was kickstarting. Hold on. About this. So I mean, I'm not going to be able to answer your question. It depends. And I think it's just a bunch of different factors. It can be luck. People are reviewing it, and everyone does it a little bit differently too, where they either all have the names on there, and then they pick and kind of rank them. Some of them do like a blind. I think B-Sides Nashville for the longest time would do a blind. So they take out the person's name. And in fact, one of the conferences this year, it was B-Sides Knoxville. I was supposed to speak there. I had to back out because of a family commitment last minute. And they were like, "Can you remove your name from the title for the presentation?" Because we do a blind and your name's in the title. So some of them do it blind and they just want to look at the content. So I think the abstract has to be really compelling. I think AI will help with some of that stuff. Mine is I'm a very to the point type of person, and I don't elaborate or fluffy up stuff. And some people don't want that. Other people do, right? And some people want the clever title. I've seen people get selected because they just have a very, very clever title. My titles are often like how to do this, how to do that. Social engineering for the blue team got picked up quite a bit too, because I was talking about social engineering, and people, I guess, were interested in how we can use it on the blue team side. A lot of them were disappointed though when I was just talking about relationships and trying to be nicer people to people outside of cybersecurity. But it was one of my favorite presentations. That answer your question?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate you talking about that. That's some good thing. That to me seems to, for myself, is like the biggest barrier. How am I going to get in when I'm an unknown and trying to get known? So.
Yeah, no, well, and I think if you just have a good idea and you're really interested in it, I think that's the way to go. Just realize some people, the what is it? The community might not be interested in it, or you might build it. So I built the one on APIs, and then AI came out that March. Now people still think so. There's a lot of AI talks, thankfully, and that's what the conferences wanted, was AI talks. Thankfully, it was APIs. I think were still a bit of a mystery and a thing people wanted to better understand. So that's why that got picked up. My first ever talk back in 2015 was the Blue Team Starter Kit. Let me see if I can pull this up here. Let's see. And I presented. I was very thankful for it because I presented at DerbyCon, which is no longer around. Let me see if I can find the abstract for this. I don't think I have. I got picked up at DerbyCon, B-Sides Augusta for the first time, Colasec. But those were all 30-minute things too. And again, some conferences too you got to look for the conferences too that will accept new speakers. There are certain conferences that like having new people that haven't spoken before because they want to give them that opportunity, which I think is phenomenal, by the way. I don't know if I wrote an abstract for Blue Team Starter Kit, but people were interested in that at the time too, because it was all about low cost open source tooling that I was using at work because I was at a state government job. And I think there was a lot of people interested in that. So that was, I'm looking out, I'm on my other thing, but on my other account looking for the abstract, but I don't have the abstract for it.
Yeah, that's all right. No, that's just gotta go to the luck of the draw, be creative, and have some meat in your abstract.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm using AI to write it. I go through and edit it, so I don't just take the AI abstract. And you can see here I've got different versions because sometimes they have different requirements. Again, I like being clever, so I've had it write, hey, do this, and then write it in the form of Security Hitchhiker's Guide to, and add a little humor to it. That's also my personality too. So I mean, the best thing I think is to be who you are. Put and maybe even get other people to look at it. I never really get anybody else to look at it because again, I'm just trying to generate it and put it in. And I kind of am of the mind that if I get accepted, I get accepted. I'm not going to get accepted everywhere. Some people are accepted everywhere, but I think also, again, getting into it, I do get accepted at certain ones every year because one, they don't do a blind test and they know who I am. And I've established myself as a speaker and a relatively decent speaker that people are like, oh, well, he's going to come, he's going to be prepared. He's going to, talk about stuff. He's the biggest thing that I really want to give people out of this too is something to take away back from it. And we all have our own unique experience and points, and building a story around that with a presentation, I think is really good. Like in that practice, I'm trying to share some insights that I've had, some experiences I've had. I'm telling stories, but I'm also trying to give people, here's something to take with you to go and use on Monday. So if you're doing threat modeling and you're struggling to have people, speak up, it's like just stay quiet. At some point, someone will say something. It's in our nature. People get very awkward in those situations. Cool. Any other questions? Yeah, no, that was a good question. Thank you. Cool. Well, if that's it, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for listening. If you're listening to this after the fact, again, give me feedback. You can absolutely reach out to me, timothy.dblock@exploresec.com. If you like the video, like it. If you don't like it, hit me up. I guess they still have the dislike button, I think. But if you don't like it, let me know why you didn't like it. Drop a comment in the video. If you're listening to this on the podcast, then rate it on the podcast. And I think that's it. I need like a catchphrase. I should do a contest for like a catchphrase at the end, because I never know how to end these, and I just start rambling and going on. But that's okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone, and we will see you next time.